Well, the Champions League draw has just come to conclusion, and here are a little bit of insight about what should we expect and who should be winning to the next round. Can't miss the show. Muy buena mi gente, aquí nos encontramos nuevamente en otro programa de fútbol con Bamba.
Dentro del área, golpea Petit, Zidane y gol. Ha marcado Zidane el 1-0 para Francia.
Welcome everybody, and here we go. This is Fútbol con Bamba, and yes, the draw has just come up from the Champions League, and we finally know exactly the round of 16, who are the 8 games that are actually going to be occurring, and it's going to be talking about the next round. And we're talking about that 2 of the teams that actually matched up is FC Porto versus Arsenal. We have Napoli versus Barcelona. We have Paris Saint-Germain versus Real Sociedad. We have Inter de Milan, Atlético de Madrid. We have PSV versus Borussia Dortmund, La Lazio versus the Bayern Munich, Copenhagen versus Manchester City, and Leipzig versus Real Madrid. And let's talk a little bit about what has been going on and what are we expecting and who Fútbol con Bamba think is going to pass the next round. And let's start immediately with the matches about FC Porto and Arsenal. And we're talking about that FC Porto and Arsenal. Arsenal currently right now ranks number 1 in their league. FC Porto ranks number 3 in their tables in their respective leagues. Now, in the history, Arsenal and Porto has seen each other 6 times, which Arsenal has won 3 games, have lost 2, and 1 has been a tie, with a total of 12 goals in favor, 4 goals against. And this is going to be an exceptional match because we did see already that Arsenal won their group and they were playing, and that was Group B, which had in their group PSV, Lens, and Sevilla. And we saw that Porto ended up second in their group, tied in the same points with Barcelona, which they had Shakhtar Donetsk and Antwerp as their opponents in their groups. Now, having this said, what do I think percentage-wise is going to be the advantage in this game? I think really right now, it's going to be a really interesting game. I think Arteta has the better system to play in this game. We know historically that Portuguese teams has always given a little bit of difficulties for English teams, especially towards Arsenal. But I still think Arsenal playing away the first game and then playing at home, it's going to be a key factor for them. And I think Arsenal is or has the big possibilities to win this match, especially, you know, how Arsenal's attacking force is pretty good, and the midfield control is going to be the key for these matches. Now, let's talk a little bit about percentage-wise. Well, I think right now, as I mentioned to you, I think it's going to be a 60-40%. I think Arsenal's going to win in the first game, and then it's going to go in the second game and just finish it off, basically winning 60-40%. Anything can happen, especially in Portugal, where Porto can actually grow up and play very, very, very good. We know that 2 of the top 5 goals or leading goals in this tournament right now is actually players from Porto, and we're talking about Alisson and Galeno, which Galeno right now has been very active with the most assists also in this tournament. So it's going to be a tough game to see. It's going to be a tough game to beat. Gabriel Jesus, we know that he's the leading scorer, and then we have Saka as also being around there, the top 2 leading scorers for Arsenal. So it's going to be very interesting. So we'll see these matches. This is one that I'm not going to miss. And they're going to be playing on February 21, the away game, and March 12, the return. So it's going to be very interesting to see this match. Let's talk a little bit about the next matchup, which I think is going to be a very, very, very difficult matchup. And we're talking about Paris Saint-Germain and Real Sociedad. We know Paris Saint-Germain was in the group of death where he had Nottingham, Milan, and he had Newcastle besides Borussia Dortmund, right? So this is going to be a very, very difficult match especially for Real Sociedad. Real Sociedad came leader in their group, tied with points with Inter de Milan. It had Benfica and Salzburgo. We knew the Real Sociedad was coming inside right now, and one of the key moments for Real Sociedad, it's how well they dominate the game, how well they play the game. Now, they're gonna be facing a Paris Saint-Germain, which is not going through the best movement right now. We saw some weaknesses in the first round. However, they have one key factor in their side, and it's called Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe, every time he comes in this right state of mind and on the way that we knew him and seen him excel in these big games, it's very dangerous to contain. And besides that, it's a lot of young players and a lot of skilled individual players in that squad that Luis Enrique has in his command. He has not been able to bring that combination all to join together and to actually believe the system. And they were barely passing to the next round because Newcastle lost that game. If Newcastle would have won that game, then PSG would have not been in this next round. So we've seen a little bit of struggle as they're going. I think by February, they're going to start clicking. They're going to start getting better. And that's when it really counts. In Champions League, we all know this. And it comes out to be, like I said, you have Kylian Mbappe in your squad, and this might mean the main factor. However, another advantage that Paris Saint-Germain has over Real Sociedad is the coach. And we know that Luis Enrique knows very, very, very well how to set up a game against Real Sociedad. He's seen them numerous times against each other, and he knows exactly how Real Sociedad is playing. But you have to keep in mind, Real Sociedad is a squad that has been very, very, very tough. And in the league, there's only 3 teams that have been able to beat them. And we're talking about Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and Real Madrid. So it's not an easy bone to break and to chew on. But I think they're going to give a lot of competitiveness to Paris Saint-Germain. I think in Paris, PSG should try to guarantee the victory. If they end up winning the game barely, like the last time when Real Madrid went over there, then it might be a big trouble for Paris Saint-Germain coming back to Spain and trying to finish them off in La Sociedad, where we know his fans are very rowdy. There's very crowd, they're very noisy, and it's an advantage for Real Sociedad. This is why this is one game that I still see Paris Saint-Germain with the upper hand, but I'm gonna give it 65-45. 65-35, I'm sorry, on Paris Saint-Germain's lead. I could have given 55-45, and this is what I had in mind pretty much, but I still think that Paris Saint-Germain will win. Now, it might change. If it comes out to be, like I said, if Saint-Germain sleeps and don't kill Real Sociedad and Paris Saint-Germain, you might be in trouble. So, you know what? Final decision for Bam Bam, 55-45. Paris Saint-Germain winning. It's going to be that close. It's going to be that close for that matchup. I like the matchup. I think it's going to be incredible. Real Sociedad right now is actually playing on the 6th position in the Liga, and he's actually Paris Saint-Germain is in 1st place right now in La Liga. Real Sociedad and Paris Saint-Germain are going to be playing February 14, the away game, and March 5th, the return game. So it's going to be very, very, very interesting for this matchup. Now let's talk a little bit about the next one, which we're talking about Borussia Dortmund, and we're talking about PSV, where PSV, right? If we want to mention it the right way. We were just talking about PSV was 2nd in their table, and they had Arsenal, Lens, and Sevilla. And we talked about Dortmund being 1st place in their group, which was called the Group of Death. Whereas PSG, Newcastle, and Milan. This is actually going to be a very, very, very interesting game. I think that either one that passes from this group is one of the teams that a lot of teams probably want to see. And the reason I mentioned it is because, you know, both of these teams are, Dortmund is not going in the right moment, in the right path in La Bundesliga, and he's actually currently in 5th position, where we actually see PSV in the 1st position on their league. But we did see a little bit about the games when they were in Champions League, and we saw that PSV actually playing very competitiveness, Dortmund playing very competitiveness. I think this one is going to be on the upper hand just because I underestimated. Because if you saw my shows before, I thought Borussia Dortmund was actually going to be in 4th place in their group of death. They end up running away with that group. That's why I give them a little bit of credit. However, I still don't see the mega power from that squad. I think right now Dortmund might have the upper hand on this matchup versus PSV, but I still don't see either of these teams passing more than the next round. I could be wrong. Take my word on this. However, this is going to be an interesting game because historically these two squads have played against each other in the past, and they have 1 victory, 1 tie, no losses, 4-2. Dortmund actually having the upper hand over PSV. So it's going to be very interesting. They play on February 20, March 13. And I give it also another very balanced out. And this is going to be 55-45. Borussia Dortmund actually winning this matchup. What was it? I did mention that it's the debut for Real Sociedad and Paris Saint-Germain, just because I mentioned that matchup. They've never had a historic match, so it's going to be new for both teams, as I mentioned before. But I'll continue. Now, one of the easiest game, or I don't want to disrespect anybody from any squad, but I still think it's actually the more feasible squad, and it's going to be Manchester City versus Copenhagen. Now, we know Copenhagen actually end up being second on their group, and Copenhagen on the group had Bayern Munich, Galatasaray, and Manchester United. We know that they were able to surpass a little bit and going over. Manchester United should have been probably in the 2nd place in this group. They lost that match. They took them down. And Copenhagen actually end up going to the next round. Now, we've seen historically Copenhagen versus Manchester City. It's been 1 victory and 1 tie from Manchester City side. Copenhagen's never scored against Manchester City. It's been 5 scores on Manchester City versus Copenhagen historically when they've seen each other. Now, this matchup is going to be the away game on February 13. It's going to be March 6th to return. Honestly, right now, I think right now that it's going to be reliable. The Larager actually tries to see if they can score some goals against Manchester City. Very difficult. I think Manchester City right now is not going through the best phase on the category. However, they had one of the easiest schedules in the first round, which they actually just went almost playing a lot of the games with their secondary. And we're talking about their group was actually Leipzig from Red Bull, Young Boys, and Cervena Cerveda. And this is actually a group that Manchester City played a lot with their second squad. They're not going through the best phase right now in their tournament, in the Premier League. They're currently in the 4th position. Copenhagen's in the 3rd position. But we know that they have Erling Haaland, which is right now injured, but by February he should be back. And then you're going to have, Julian Alvarez also with 4 goals. This is a squad that very loaded, very composed. They're their former Champions League champions. And they're actually in this way getting a breeze on the first group. This round, I think this was the most accessible and the easiest squad. And I'm not trying to be, making fun of anybody. I think everybody's professional, but we have to understand that Manchester City is a humongous team right now, budget-wise, and currently right now in strength. Pep Guardiola loves this type of matchups, and I think you won't be surprised if one of the games that they really get it over in Copenhagen, Denmark, they actually come in and beat Copenhagen very easily. Then you'll see them in Manchester playing with their second team. So this is going to be an interesting matchup to see. I think it is one lopsided, 99 to 1%. I'm sorry, Copenhagen, but I have to do it. That's the bottom line in there. Now, let's talk about Napoli versus Barcelona. Now, this is going to be a very interesting because we know that Napoli actually end up in the group of Real Madrid on the second position. They did play two really good tough games. Real Madrid 2-3 in the first game at their home, and then they lost in Real Madrid 4-2. We know that they had Union Berlin and Braga and their squad. We know that Barcelona also, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Barcelona won their group against Porto, Shakhtar, and Antwerp, where Barcelona actually is not going through the best phase of their matches. Not even in La Liga, they're in third place right now. I'm sorry. And in this group, they ended up in first place. But it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think Naples, right now in their league, Naples is actually in the 6th position. They're not going through the best phase right now in the league. I know last year they were the champions of La Calcio. They did really good last year, but they lost a lot of key players, and this year is making it very difficult for them to be able to excel. They still did enough to win in the group that they were, and it came out to be that it's going to be a really good matchup, but I still think 70-30 is a percentage that I give this game. Historically, Barcelona has won one game and draw one game with them. Barcelona scoring 4 goals, and Naples has only been able to score 2 goals historically to Barcelona. These games are going to be played on February 21st and March 12th. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. However, I still think that Xavi Hernandez is going to find the formula to get Barcelona back in track a little bit. And it comes out to be that in the Champions League, this might be a year that they could surprise. But this matchup, I still think, like I said, 70-30, Barcelona winning this game. Now let's talk a little bit about another squad where, to be honest with you, Atletico Madrid and Inter de Milan. This is a game that I really do want to watch. Inter de Milan and Atletico Madrid has never played historically against each other, but it's going to be very interesting. We know that Cholo Simeone, it's a former Inter de Milan also player. You know, we know that he's been familiarized with Inter. It's actually the Italian news reports right now, when they saw this draw, was not too happy about it. They know that Atletico Madrid is in the 4th place in La Liga right now, and Inter is actually enjoying about the top seed in Italia Calcio League. This is going to be a matchup that I cannot give a favorite right now. I think it's going to be that good of a match. It's going to be depending and relying that Morata and Griezmann, which are leading in the top 3 of the scores in Champions League right now, have to really push the envelope. Cholo Simeone, very important that he goes to Italy and tries to get to, of course, we know that he's defensive, and he's going to try not to lose over there to bring it at home and then have the home field advantage. But if he wants to be really successful, he will have to come in and put a lot of pressure. And if he can come out with a victory in Naples, it's going to be an extreme advantage for him to come home in front of his crowd and be able to probably take this stage of round 16. Now, Inter, on the other hand, has the home field advantage at the beginning. They're playing really good. Lautaro right now is on a gold streak. He's playing really good. The team right now has a very power offensive squad. They're a little bit susceptible on the defense. However, this is a squad that is going to be very interesting to watch. There's going to be a very group that you really want to play in. We saw that Inter came out from the group of Real Sociedad, Benfica, and Salzburgo. We know that that's not an easy group. However, it was a very interesting game to watch every single game of Inter. So what we got to say about this, the prediction from Mambam, I give it a, 50-50. I'm going to give that one balanced draw. I don't dare to even go up. I might have thought 51-49. No, 50-50. That's what's going to be. That's the one that I think is going to be the one to really want to watch. It's going to be very interesting. I think a lot of these matchups are very interesting, but this one is the most interesting of all the matchups that have been there. Now let's talk about the next match, and that's talking about Bayern de Munich and Lazio. We know that Bayern de Munich, after losing Lewandowski, this year acquired Harry Kane, and Harry Kane has not been disappointing for this group, for the squad, and Harry Kane is actually just 1 goal shy from being in the leader on the Champions League right now. He's doing and having everything to make this team excel. Bayern de Munich actually played in the same group with Copenhagen, Galatasaray, and Manchester United, where they they really cruised on this group. They had a successful movement with them. And then La Lazio, we know that La Lazio was actually in the second position, and he played in the same group as Atletico Madrid, Feyenoord, and Celtics. La Lazio actually had a really successful run in here, just having 2 downfalls. But La Lazio, it's doing extremely well in the Champions, but they're not doing really good at home. They're actually in the 11th place at home, where in the other hand, we have Bayern Munich in the 2nd place at home. Now, we know historically they've never been able to tie or beat Bayern Munich in two times that they've seen each other, but they have scored 2 goals on Bayern Munich, where Bayern Munich has scored 6 goals historically against La Lazio. So it's going to be a game that is going to be played on February 14th, March 5th. It's going to be extremely interesting to watch this game. I think right now, Bayern Munich, it's going to be that overpower, that machinery. Even though we've seen a defensive side of Bayern Munich a little bit susceptible, a little bit more watery than we think it is, but Bayern Munich still has the offensive power. And as I mentioned previously, I think Bayern Munich is going to win on a possibility or percentage 80-20. That's how much I see right now Bayern Munich passing through to the next round. So it's going to be very, very, very interesting. Now let's talk about the last game in the draw. We're talking about Real Madrid versus Leipzig from Germany. Now we know that Real Madrid cruised that first group with Naples, Braga, and Union Berlin. They didn't lose 1 game. They scored 16 goals ahead and only received 7 games. This is actually a match that is going to be played February 13 on their away game, March 6th on the return game, and they're going nothing less and nothing more than against Leipzig, which we know that Leipzig came in the group where Manchester City play Young Boys and Cerveda, and we know that Leipzig is 3rd in their group in Germany. They're doing a really good squad. First, Real Madrid currently right now until Girona probably plays later on today and see if they win. We know that historically they've played against each other twice. They've each had 1 victory, and Real Madrid has scored 4 goals versus 3 against Leipzig. Now we know Real Madrid on their away games going to Germany always have a little bit of, confrontations and always a little bit not the best scores every time it goes to Germany. But Real Madrid, it's a very powerful team right now. We've seen Real Madrid right now excel, even though the significant amount of injuries that this squad has been reflecting. We know that Real Madrid this weekend lost David Alaba also and Ferland Mendy to injury. David Alaba has hurt his knee and is going to be out for the season. We might see Real Madrid acquiring one of their former players to come back and be reunited with the team in the winter market. Or we might see them surprises and bring another center back for the winter market. But we know that there's talk about Tchouaméni probably being replacing the center back of David Alaba. We know that Nacho has always been there to put his mark when it's needed. And it's going to be very interesting to watch this. It's going to be very interesting to see how Real Madrid comes up. Vinicius will be back. You will have back, players like Camavinga. You will have back most of the injuries that are currently right now. You're going to start seeing some of those players come back. I think in this group right now, we're going to give a 70-30 Real Madrid possibilities of winning. I think it's going to be very important that Real Madrid comes out with a victory in Germany and then makes it very, very difficult for any squad to come inside to Bernabeu and play, especially when they close down that roof and make that roar comes up a lot more in the stadium. It's actually going to be advantageous to Real Madrid squad. So, as I said right now, I think, Arsenal, Paris, Dortmund, Manchester City, Barcelona, I don't dare to say either one, or Inter or Atletico Madrid. If I have to pick one, I will go with my heart with the Spanish team. I'll go Atletico Madrid, but Bayern and Real Madrid are the ones to see to the next round. That is Football Go Bang. I hope you enjoyed it. Right now, you have, all the league scores right now. You have 3 players with 5 goals in Champions League. We're talking about Griezmann, Haaland, and Morata. Then we have Evanilson from Porto with 4, Galeno with 4, De Jesus with 4 from Arsenal, Julian Alvarez from Manchester City with 4, Openda from Leipzig with 4, Harry Kane with 4 from Bayern Munich, Bellingham with 4 from Real Madrid, Mbappe with 3 From Paris Saint-Germain, Rodrigo, Leriger, Ferran Torres, Joao Felix, Joselu, Saka, Bryce Mende, all of them with 3 goals also. I hope you enjoyed this show. I hope you continue to watch. If you have not subscribed to this channel, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and I'll see you until next time with Football con Bambam. Ciao!